and then I would do it
And with the volume. Volume
Oh,
of
it would just pick up the microphone. So
oh, it does. Okay. Okay, right.
recording now.
I don't know. Do you all have this?
Oh, Susie, I'm just going to be mad Okay, thanks very much for coming along. I know that it's been a busy semester for a lot of you, and it's good to see so many faces from first year who have gone into second year, and now you're about to launch yourself into the third year, and with all the joys of things like dissertations, essays, coursework, and the like. So the point of this presentation is really to give you an overview of some of the things to look out for in choosing your modules, to give you an idea of the core modules for the program of study that you'll be doing next year, and to also give you an idea of the optional modules. And because you would have chosen your modules last year online, we'll give you a little bit more, remind you about how you would select your modules next year. So what I'll do is I'll go through each of the degree programs that we offer, politics and the like, international relations, development studies, and then we'll talk about the optional modules. And I appreciate that you might have some questions as well, so there'll be time at the end for questions. So first of all, if you haven't got one of these module lists, which lists the core modules and the optional modules, and also has the semesters that they're running in, please get one during this session. If you're listening to this via our Blackboard site or via an email link, please go onto the Blackboard site and see the module catalogue, which will give this information as well. So just to go through the courses and the pathways and to give you an idea of the core modules first of all. So at politics, and if you're a BA politics student, you would be taking a module called Post-Colonial Politics, India and China, of which Dr. Dibesh Anand, who's the gentleman obviously at the front of the room, who you know, and that module is trying to bring our comparative politics area studies into thinking about the post-colonial environment, the post-colonial world, and what impact that's had perhaps on thinking about identity, thinking about the state, thinking about society, and looking at perhaps post-colonial struggles as part of that. So the focus is on India and China in that module, and that runs in the first semester of the year. Now, the thing that you are perhaps either you're having sleepless nights about thinking about your research proposals and the like, or perhaps you've solved your research problem and got a really excellent research proposal, is your dissertation. And your dissertation is a 30-credit module that you work with a supervisor throughout the third year. And it's really important that when you do your second year research proposal, that you think about who might be the appropriate supervisor for that. Obviously, we can't guarantee who your supervisor will be because our workloads vary, and also we can take some topics and some topics we can't supervise, but we generally would encourage you to think about your dissertation and what type of dissertation you want to do as you move into your third year. Now, in the politics degree, there's optional core modules. In other words, you can choose from one of the following. It's nothing to prevent you from taking these modules, both of these modules as well. So the first of these is called Citizenship and Democratic Politics, which is taught by Dr. Paulina Tambakaki. And Paulina explores contemporary questions of citizenship, looks at its theoretical significance, looks at how citizenship's being transformed, whether that's through European Union, whether that's through things such as movements for change, such as Occupy and other types of struggles. And so citizenship and democratic politics is a bit of democratic theory, citizenship, but it has a very contemporary, critical take, perhaps, on discourses of citizenship. In the second semester, we have another theory-based module, which is called Power, Freedom and Justice, which Rob McMaster, who's at the back of the room, who you will all know, will be available to answer questions about. But it looks at questions of political subjectivity, explores contemporary, perhaps, political philosophy, looks at debates around justice, freedom, and thinks, perhaps quite conceptually, about the dynamics and the dimensions of power. So if you are a theory fan and you perhaps live, sleep and breathe political theory, that module will be one that you might want to follow. So that's the politics core modules. The international relations core modules, again, combining a bit of theory with practice. If you're an international relations student, these are your core modules. You can take these modules as well if you are not an IR student. The first of these is taught by Dr. Aidan Herher, which is a first semester module. And sovereignty and intervention, documents the transformation in debates around sovereignty after the end of the Cold War. So looking at things like the new wars and old wars debates and the significance of those for thinking about sovereignty, looking at the evolution of international law, looking at what that means in terms of debates around humanitarian intervention and the like. So it's a kind of an applied conceptual module looking at history and recent political history, and would obviously deal with questions about today around the things like the Arab Spring and questions about democratization. The second module, which, I can't be impartial about this module because it's one that I teach, but it's a really good module now. But this module, Ethics and IR, is an applied ethical module. In other words, it talks about what are the significant ethical questions that you might have when thinking about the international system today. So the emphasis on the module is about you framing questions of ethics. It's not about perhaps me telling you what ethics is in the international system, but the assessment is designed around you choosing an issue that you're passionate about and taking it and transforming it into a credible, viable, perhaps think tank, for instance. So we have a lot of emphasis there on understanding what ethics means within the system in an applied context. So it's not just about theories, it's about taking an issue, exploring it, and developing and taking it further in terms of our applied understanding. The dissertation, there's no escape from the dissertation. Everybody will be writing a dissertation, we hope. And so that is the 30 credit module that you'll be doing as well as part of that. Now, if you're doing a combined politics and international relations degree, we have the dissertation. You have a choice of citizenship and democratic politics, which is semester 1, power, freedom and justice, which is semester 2, and you also would choose one from the following, which is sovereignty and intervention after the Cold War, and ethics, or ethics and international relations, which is semester 2. I'm stressing the semesters because it's important that when you think about your planning and your workload planning for next year, that you work out what type of perhaps time management person you are. Are you one person that will like to get everything done in one short, sharp burst? In other words, would you prefer to do more in the first semester or more in the second semester? We generally ask and require you to balance your modules, but I know that some of you have already approached me about how you might plan your workload for next year. You have to take responsibility for how you plan your workload. We can't tell you which modules to take, but think about and try and achieve a good balance between semester 1 and semester 2 modules. And there are questions there that you might like to talk to your personal tutor about because they've got the experience in terms of supporting students to make these types of choices. So the politics and IR, you choose one from those modules at the top of the list and you choose one from the bottom of the list. This leaves us with development studies, and again, the dissertation looms large and hangs over us. But the dissertation, obviously, you'll be taking. And then another module, which was led by Dr. Farhang Moradi, and it's very much a team-taught module. It looks at how NGOs can influence development policies, and also trying to not just celebrate NGOs, but looking at NGOs from a critical perspective, looking at some of the dilemmas of NGOs with the international system. So there's a kind of employability focus as a result of that sort of focus on NGOs. In the two modules that you have a choice from in the following, because it's a development studies and an IR degree, you have a choice between sovereignty and intervention after the Cold War or ethics and international relations in the second semester. So this gets us to the types of optional modules that you might want to take, and to look at these and to think about these. Some of you ask where can you find more information about the assessment, and where can I find background reading? The place to go for that is Blackboard, and I'll show some screenshots in a moment to give you an idea about where you can access this information. But American Power in the 21st Century is a semester 1 module. It's taught by Dr. Ali Tajvidi, and it looks at perhaps contemporary US foreign policy and also how it's developed and evolved, obviously looking at how American power, American hegemony perhaps has played a role in shaping the world in which we live in today. So American Power in the 21st Century, that's a first semester module. Citizenship and Democratic Politics, which is Paulina Tambakaki. That's one which we've mentioned previously. Globalization, States and NGOs in Developing Countries, that's also a first semester module. Fahang Morid is involved in that module. And then the next module, which you haven't heard about, is called Politics and Media Freedom, which is Dr. Richard Barbrook, who's there in here today. And this module looks at concepts, obviously, of media freedom, looks at how freedom has, debates around the media have developed, looks at different theoretical approaches within the media, and has a unique assessment in getting need to make media presentations and screenshots and so looking at mashups and the like, I think. But Richard's available to talk to you about that after this session. Post-colonial politics, which is Dibya Shanand, we've mentioned, it's first semester module. And a really interesting module here is taught by Dr. Patrick Burke, which works from perhaps a more political sociology perspective and looks at European states and how protest and different protest movements have evolved, perhaps in the 20th century and into the 21st century. So social movement politics and the politics of change are part of that sort of module. And then finally, sovereignty and intervention after the Cold War is a module that you can also take as an optional module. So that's your first semester. If we hold on to questions till the end, please. If we then have semester 2, we have Applied British Politics, which is taught by Dr. Richard Barbrook, and Applied British Politics is a number of political practitioners, not just activists, policymakers, those that are involved in party politics, for instance. This is where you get to engage and speak to them, ask questions, and so it's reflecting on, perhaps, the process of doing politics and looking at British politics from a practitioner perspective. That's a module that's running in the second semester. Also is Diplomacy and International Relations, who Franz Pedersen, who you all would know, and that is very much a simulation, hands-on type of module, looking at concepts of diplomacy, the history of diplomacy, what does diplomacy mean, how does diplomatic practices, how do they shape our understanding of foreign policy, and also different states, both within the European and in international context. So the way that's taught is very much a imaginative approaches to looking at things like games and simulations as well. So if you have any questions, you can ask Franz. European security is a module that introduces concepts, obviously, of European security, but looks at the transformation of debates around European security and looks at perhaps the European response, looks at states' response, and is, again, a reflection of the fact that we have a number of people working in the department in the area of security studies. So Patricia Hogwood, who you might have met in a number of other modules, is teaching that European security. Ethics and IR, I've said a little bit about, so I won't say anything more about it. And then humanitarian intervention and international relations. Now, this module is taught by Aidan Herher, who you are familiar with and perhaps have been taught in your first and second years. And it is a case study module. So it looks at different case studies of intervention and also of non-intervention within the international system. Could be Kosovo, could be Rwanda, could be debates today about Sudan, Libya, and other types of states. So this module is a module that is case study based. Now, just be a little bit careful, perhaps if you are doing sovereignty intervention as well, that there's not overlap as such, but you should perhaps look out for, if you've done a lot of intervention, or not personally if you've done a lot of intervention. I hope, maybe you have. I don't know what you do in your spare time. But if you've done some, gosh, I can't say if you've done some intervention. If you just think carefully about, have you looked at this area before? If so, make the right choices in relation to that. So that module, you can come and speak to me as course leader for that course, which that module forms part of. Issues and debates in Middle Eastern politics, which is Dr. Abdouab El Effendi, is looking at the Middle East from certain thematic perspectives. And I had the pleasure of sitting in one of the classes the other day. And so you look at things like the media in the Middle East, and looking at Arab media, looking at Al Jazeera. You look at also debates around democracy and Islam in the Middle East. Abdouab brings a very interesting sort of background and his own perspective to that module. So it's sort of a thematic exploration of Middle Eastern politics. Political analysis, mind, knowledge and reality is a great title. Dr. Ali Tajvidi teaches that module, and it's for those that perhaps want to have an understanding or a grasp and further perhaps sort of investigation into how do we do political analysis, what is the philosophy of the social sciences, and how does that inform our understanding of politics. So looking at debates around power and how we understand power within political analysis. So Ali Tajvidi is the module leader for that one. Another new module that's been running this year, so it'll be the second time that it's run, is called Political Psychology. And this is looking at how organizations function, not just political parties and electoral systems, but how within organizations, within institutions, how there are political questions, and things that come through the fact that we participate in political institutions and political organizations. And that's taught by Dr. Ricardo Blaug, who you will be familiar with as well. And finally, if the power, freedom and justice, if you believe in justice, or if you don't believe in justice, that's a module that you might want to explore the question of political subjectivity from. So the thing to note, and there'll be time for questions. I'm recording this, so I will come back to your questions when I've stopped recording, is to look at online and to think about the fact that you've got certain deadlines here. So module registration opens up on the 24th of March and goes through to the 17th of April. So you should know how to do online module registration, but if you don't, you need to log into your SRS web as a student, obviously, and you would click on the yellow highlighted link there called Student Module Registration. So that's something that you should do by the 17th of March. So in the meantime, you should speak to your course leaders, your personal tutors, speak to us this afternoon as well, if you have any questions that you might want to ask in relation to your studies for next year. Now, you must choose as a level 6 student, providing that at the end of this year you have banked 240 credits, and hopefully they're in the right subject and they're not in chemical engineering or anything. But if you've banked those credits, you can progress through without any problems, hopefully into your level 6, your final year. So you should ensure that you're taking those 120 credits as a full-time student. But if you have problems, or you perhaps have had to pause your studies, or you have to retrieve a module, these things happen, it's fine. You should try and make an appointment to speak with either your personal tutor or your course leader, because it might be likely that the best way to do module registration would be on paper. But if you have those full credits and you're proceeding and you're progressing in terms of your module registration, keep in mind that the online system will make it a lot easier for you. So if you do require further information, could you please go onto the Blackboard site for the department, because that's where you'll have the Blackboard catalogue. Now, I will also send out the link to the catalogue to all continuing students, level 4, level 5, this afternoon or tomorrow. But the Blackboard catalogue and the module catalogue gives you information, for instance, about the assessment breakdown. So if you love exams, for instance, and you have a deep passion to do assessment that's just exams, then you can choose those modules. So look out for the module catalogue because it's a useful source of information. Likewise, if there's a particular member of staff you love or like, I would never use the word hate because hate's a nasty word, but love. All we need is love. But what I would suggest you do is you go onto the module catalogue and it lists in alphabetical order the members of staff who will have primary responsibility for that module next year. Keep in mind that staffing arrangements can change and also that a number of modules will have a team teaching approach. So follow up and investigate and find out about your modules on that Blackboard site. So for instance, if you look here, you'll also see the module catalogue and it will list all the modules and give you an idea of the pro formas there. So that module catalogue, you can maybe follow through some of the background reading in your spare time. I know that you've got a lot of that spare time to read up all for next year. But you can follow up and you can, by clicking on these links here, you can get the pro formas, which has things like the indicative syllabus, give you an idea of how the module's structured, also an idea of some of the background reading and some things that will be informing the assessment profile for that module. So that leaves us with a few facts just before we get time for questions. First of all, I know that you're good at deadlines because you've come along here to this session today and you are good at time management. But do note that the deadline for online module registration is April 17. That helps us to make decisions about how many classes and seminars we can run and helps us to ensure that your timetable will work without any problems as well. So April 17 is the deadline for module registration. So please do that online. If you can't do that online, then please go to registry or speak to your course leader or your personal tutor who'll be more than happy to help you to complete the module registration. The second thing here is use Blackboard wisely and make sure that you use that module catalogue because it can help you choose the modules and help you make decisions about how many modules that you want to do in semester 1, semester 2, but try and use and weigh up all that information because it's you shouldn't be making decisions without the full picture in mind. If you have any academic questions, so you can come and ask me questions about gravity or questions about the world and life itself. But academic questions, you should come and speak to a member of the DPIR team. We have a number here in the room today. We also are available via email, but also you should get onto our Blackboard site and look at the module catalogue as part of that sort of finding out information. If you have technical problems, you can't do module registration or you thought you did it and you don't know if it worked, then make sure you visit Registry in Wells Street and ask for some help. Now, on that note, I'm going to finish up the formal part. There'll be a couple of minutes opportunity to ask questions, and then you can also speak to us on a one-on-one basis. Some of you might have more specific queries in mind. But thanks for your time. Sorry, yes. Oh, you don't have to clap. Right.